Today is Monday, August 12th. We're talking about which presidential campaign may have been hacked and why former President Trump is now threatening to sue major news outlets. Also, that's a wrap on the Paris Olympics. We'll bring you the biggest victories from Team USA and highlights from an epic closing ceremony. Plus, a possible game changer for people with severe allergies. How much you can expect to spend on back-to-school shopping. And what big new attractions are coming to Disney theme parks. Those stories and even more news to know to start your week next. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. The Trump campaign now believes its email system has been breached by hackers working for Iran. It comes after news outlets like The Washington Post and Politico received an internal vetting document on vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance that included a write-up of his potential vulnerabilities. So far, U.S. officials haven't confirmed the campaign was hacked, and the campaign hasn't given evidence of the breach or Iranian involvement. But just on Friday, Microsoft said it discovered evidence that Iranian hackers tried to break into the account of a high-ranking official without actually naming the official. Former President Trump wrote on Truth Social that Iran should not be doing anything of this nature. The Biden administration responded saying it condemns any effort to interfere in the electoral process. And some lawmakers, including Democrats, have called for briefings and declassification of information. Meanwhile, many cybersecurity experts say they expect more hacks and leaks as this election draws closer. Gaza is reeling from one of the deadliest attacks in the 10-month war. Gaza's civil defense, that provides emergency services in the Strip, says at least 100 people were killed in a school-turned-shelter over the weekend. Israel's military says the strike targeted a Hamas command center that Hamas purposely embedded in the compound, and it disputed the reported death toll and the scale of the strike's impact. Israel also ordered more evacuations in an area it previously declared a humanitarian zone, saying rockets had been fired from there toward Israel, and with that, Israel now considers it a dangerous combat zone. Now, as you know, most of Gaza's population has already been displaced, often multiple times throughout this war, and the devastation is widespread. But Israel still blames Hamas and other militants for hiding among civilians and launching attacks from residential areas. The U.S. Defense Secretary spoke with his Israeli counterpart again yesterday, reiterating America's commitment to defend Israel. Though the White House also says it's deeply concerned about the latest reports of casualties and has urged Israel to minimize civilian harm. The Biden administration is also trying to push for a ceasefire, but Hamas says it won't take part in the next round of talks this week, while Israeli officials say it's a now or never moment for a deal. Stay tuned. Well, just as the remnants of Debbie move away from the U.S., another storm is headed this way. Meteorologists say Tropical Storm Ernesto is likely to develop soon. It could start to impact parts of the Caribbean later today with heavy rain and wind. Then it could strengthen to a hurricane either near or just after passing through Puerto Rico. Though it's not clear yet if Ernesto will end up making landfall on the U.S. East Coast. So forecasters suggest watching this system over the next week. This is considered the peak of the Atlantic hurricane season, with most activity happening between mid-August and mid-October. For the first time in the history of the Summer Olympic Games, two countries tied for the most gold medals. The U.S. and China both came out on top, winning 40 each. Team USA earned many of them on the last couple of days of competition. The American men's basketball team earned its 5th straight Olympic title in what ended up being the most-watched gold medal game since 1996. The next day, the women's basketball team won its 8th straight Olympic gold, and the American women's national soccer team won gold for the first time since 2012. The U.S. also came out with the most medals overall, taking home 126 in Paris this year. Although there is a saga unfolding around American gymnast Jordan Chiles' bronze medal. Olympics officials asked that Chiles return the medal she was given at last week's floor exercise final. The issue is her coach filed a scoring inquiry that propelled her from 5th to 3rd place at the time. But after the fact, the International Olympics Committee says that inquiry was 4 seconds too late, according to gymnastics rules. Now, the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee is appealing, saying it has video evidence the American coach acted well within the limit. Chiles posted on her Instagram story that she's removing herself from social media during this process to protect her mental health. It could be weeks, if not months, before that appeal is settled. Once the competitions were complete, all the Olympic athletes and the host country of France were celebrated with a star-studded closing ceremony. In a big spectacle, the lights of France's national stadium went out. And then tens of thousands of fans who didn't even know they were going to be part of the show noticed their wristbands light up. They ended up showing scenes of athletic competition moving across entire ends of the stadium. After the light show, the band Phoenix and other French artists performed, and athletes began to climb on the stage shaped like the continents. At one point, thousands of competitors danced and jumped along with the crowd in the stands. As is tradition, Paris also handed off the Olympic flag to the Games' next host city, Los Angeles. And this time it was done in a very Hollywood way. The movie star Tom Cruise jumped from the stadium's roof to the field below, making his way through the athletes. He was handed the Olympic flag and rode out on a motorcycle. Then video screens showed the flag arriving at the beach where the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Billie Eilish, Snoop Dogg, and Dr. Dre were waiting for it. And of course, they all performed, giving a taste of what's to come in 4 years when the Summer Games arrive in LA. More news is coming up, but first, this episode is brought to you by Shopify. I launched this podcast and the business behind it nearly 7 years ago at this point, and I've learned that running a growing business means getting the insights you need where you are. So if you want to start a business or you're already years in like me, Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. Seriously, you can launch with it, and then no matter how big you want to grow, Shopify gives you everything you need to take that business to the next level. No wonder Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the US. And Shopify's the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. In fact, even as a customer, I often notice my favorite brands and companies using Shopify at checkout. And I so appreciate how easy the process is from that side as well. So it just continues to build trust with customers. And there's nothing that means more to me and this business than gaining and keeping listener and customer trust. So sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/newsworthy, all lowercase. So go to shopify.com/newsworthy right now to grow your business no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/newsworthy. Now back to the news. Americans with serious allergies now have a needle-free option to replace shots like the EpiPen. For the first time, the FDA approved a nasal spray to treat dangerous allergic reactions. It's called Neffy. Doctors say it could be life-changing since many people now use the shots incorrectly, and others have a real anxiety over them. But trials showed the nasal spray worked just as well. Neffy is meant for anyone who weighs at least 66 pounds. It's expected to be available in the next couple of months. Separately, the FDA made another highly anticipated decision by rejecting MDMA, more commonly known as ecstasy, for post-traumatic stress disorder. A drug maker had been hoping the agency would approve treatment that would combine MDMA with psychotherapy, something many veterans groups had been supporting. But the FDA is now asking the drug company to do another clinical trial to get more safety data before it can sign off. Advisors say there was some missing data in what they received and that it was tough to tell how much of the reported benefits from the trial were from the drug versus the psychotherapy that was given alongside it. Now the drug maker says it's hoping to meet with the FDA to talk more about its recommendations. Another clinical trial could add years and millions of dollars to the approval process. The closer we get to the November election, the busier the top presidential candidates have been on the campaign trail. Over the weekend, Vice President Kamala Harris and her running mate, Governor Tim Walz, wrapped up their tour of battleground states in Las Vegas, Nevada, after one of their biggest rallies ever in Arizona. Then she held a big fundraiser in her home state of California. Meanwhile, former President Trump campaigned with a rally in Montana and attended fundraisers in Colorado and Wyoming. Meanwhile, the former president has been defending a story he told last week. He spoke about a dangerous helicopter ride with the former mayor of San Francisco, Willie Brown, who once dated Vice President Harris. Trump said the helicopter had to make an emergency landing and that Brown told him terrible things about the VP. Well, then Willie Brown told the New York Times that's not true, that he's never even been in a helicopter with Trump. Later, another former California lawmaker, Nate Holden, said he was actually the one who shared a near-death experience with the former president, who he's now accusing of not knowing the difference between two very different black men. A former Trump executive backed him up on that. But Trump still insists it was Brown, saying he has flight records and is probably going to sue over news coverage of this whole ordeal. To be continued. Utah's iconic double arch that's been loved by hikers and divers for ages has collapsed. It hung over the waters of Lake Powell in Utah's portion of Glen Canyon National Recreation Area, and it attracted thousands, if not millions of tourists a year. The National Park Service says the double arch was formed 190 million years ago, but the elements eroded away the structure over the years and caused fragments to break off. Lower water levels may have also played a role in the collapse. Disney is making some big expansions to its theme parks, adding new rides and big attractions some fans have been waiting on for years. At Disney World in Florida, there will be 2 upgrades in Magic Kingdom. 1, a whole new themed land based on Disney villains. And 2, a new section of Frontierland inspired by the Cars franchise that will include 2 new rides. At Animal Kingdom, Disney will add a new Tropical Americas land featuring rides themed after Encanto and the Indiana Jones franchise. Separately, there will be a new area at Disney's Hollywood Studios dedicated to Monsters, Inc. Disney also plans to double the size of the Avengers campus at Disney California Adventure Park. There will also be a new Avatar experience at California Adventure based on the second movie of the franchise. And those are just a few of the upgrades Disney announced. So far, executives have not shared exact timelines for these projects, but they say they're all in active development now. That's it for the main news, so now it's time for Money Monday, when we talk about one interesting money-related news story. But first, a break, because this episode is brought to you by ZocDoc. You know the game Mad Libs? Sometimes finding a doctor is kind of like a bad game of Mad Libs. You need a blank specialist who takes blank insurance, who is within blank miles of you, who spends more than blank minutes with you in the exam room, etc., etc. Well, ZocDoc makes it a bit easier for you to fill in those blanks to help you find the right doctor for your specific needs. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality, in-network doctors, choose the right one for your needs, and click to instantly book an appointment. We're talking about in-network appointments with more than 100,000 healthcare providers across every specialty, from mental health to dental health, eye care to skin care, and much more. It's one of the tools I use when looking for a new doctor. Plus, ZocDoc appointments happen fast, typically within just 24 to 72 hours of booking. You can even score same-day appointments. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/newsworthy to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/newsworthy. ZocDoc.com/newsworthy. Okay, now back to Money Monday. If you still have back-to-school shopping to do, here's your warning. American families have noticed it's more expensive these days. A new survey from the National Retail Federation found parents of students in kindergarten through 12th grade are spending, on average, $875 on their back-to-school hauls, meaning a lot of families cannot afford to get everything on their kids' lists. That survey looks at not just typical school supplies, but also clothing, electronics, and gear like lunchboxes and backpacks. Even if you try to stick to the basics, the U.S. Labor Department says just the cost of school supplies has spiked nearly 25% over the past 4 years. All that said, there are some ways to save. Consumer Reports suggests spreading out back-to-school shopping over time, and for now, just prioritizing what your kid needs for the first few weeks of school. Then look for sales as they come up. Or take the opposite approach and buy in bulk at wholesale stores like Costco or Sam's Club, then share extras with other families. Also, you can always sign up for loyalty programs, take advantage of retailers who offer price matching when you find better deals at competing stores, or buy items secondhand. All right, thank you so much for joining us today. Of course, we'll be back with more news to know tomorrow. For now, have a great day.